Hi guys, I'm Deb, short for Deboshri Datta. I'm going to be sharing a 5-step framework to launch successful products. So I'll really be focusing my framework on how you measure success, right? And how you can use data to iteratively improve your products to be successful. A little quick about me here. I lead product management for customer interaction and engagement within the customer success organization at PayPal. Essentially, this involves sort of leading a global product team to sort of realize our customer success vision and our transformation strategy. In my current role, we're collectively evolving things we've never done before in customer success. In sort of using AI and ML driven experiences for our customer service agents, looking at implementing conversational AI, agent assistant bots, and things that will help us quickly and accurately resolve customer contacts and build engagement and relationship with our customers. A little background on me: I have a master's from Carnegie Mellon. Prior to this, I was head of product for our global IoT smart city solutions at Hitachi. Aside from this, I lead Women in Product, the Bay Area Peninsula chapter, and I'm also a Forbes Council member. And as part of that, I kind of write a lot of articles on Forbes.com about product management and how it can benefit nonprofits. That aside, I live in the Bay Area with my husband, my 2 rescued puppies, and a rescued cat. So before we get into launching products, right, let's talk a little bit about why do we need product managers. We live in a world where choices are plenty. Customers today are faced with several tens and hundreds of options when it comes to making daily decisions like hailing a taxi, watching a TV show, shopping online, making a phone call, whatnot, right? Product management has gained a lot of attention in the tech industry, primarily because of the influential nature of the role and its strategic importance in shaping the future of an organization. So the ideal product manager sits at the intersection of customer needs, technology, and business, and really helps shape the vision and drive growth for the organization. So truthfully, while many of you may have heard this a lot of times, like product managers are the CEO of the product, I don't know if I necessarily agree, right? To lead without authority or resources or even commitment from peers around you, I don't think that statement is really accurate. However, here's what I do believe a product manager is: you have all the responsibility and no authority. So, how do you lead a product to success? Right? It really starts from people. It's people, process, and product. And I do want to talk about this just a little bit because while we're all thinking about metrics, data, what makes products successful, we forget something that's fundamental. That is the people you will take with you on your journey. So you need to think about what your ultimate goal is. You start with little to no knowledge about the path you're going to take, the obstacles you're going to hit. You need to carefully think about the team you will build, the team members you will take with you on this journey. So as you're on this journey, as much as you are in the driver's seat, you need to learn to empower your teammates. So you're not making decisions alone. A big part of leadership is how you create a safe space where everyone has a voice and there's respect for diverse opinions. As a product manager, you are in many ways looked upon as a leader who's able to provide the team with the vision, and but you are also expected to arrive at the path forward through collaborative and inclusive conversations. So you make decisions collectively. So when you're in trouble, when there's obstacles and uncertain path ahead, you progress collectively, and this way everyone feels more committed as you take a step forward. And over time, you can start to focus more on strategy while your execution team is able to run on the rails that you've laid out for them. So a quick, I do want to also quickly speak a little bit about the build, measure, and learn method, something I'm sure you have all heard about, and it's fundamental building great products. But if not, I highly recommend you read the book called Lean Startup by Eric Ries. And this advocates for the build, measure, learn method. It's inspired by Toyota's lean manufacturing playbook. Essentially, it advocates for the customer first method, right? Before deciding what to build, understand who you're building this for. So really, the best product managers are customer champions. the best, the best place to begin is really the source, the customer. So while our customers today have several choices of products to choose from, in reality, very few of them come close enough to suit a specific customer's specific needs. So in order to figure out what you need to build, you first need to immerse yourself in customer discovery. And that's what the first, sense and C's really focus on. You need to start asking some questions like, who is your customer? What do they do? What is their lifestyle like? What are their priorities? When do they consider using your product or your competitors' products? And how do they feel about these choices they have? In essence, only after you've truly immersed yourself in your customers' lives, you can feel their pain when choosing among the available options and thoroughly empathize with the problems they are facing. And then you are in a position to make a sound decision as to what exactly you want to build, what your MVP needs to look like, right? So this really focuses on customer discovery. It helps you understand how you can seize the market that will best resonate with the product you build. The next phase is where you dive into building the product, right? So building a product, obviously, we all know in software, we build product with agile practices. What I want to focus and dedicate my talk to is on the last two phases, which is really measure and learn. And this is key to ensuring that you are able to build successful products, the keyword being successful. So let's talk about how do you measure success. So, take a step back to think about what questions can data answer. That's really what metrics are, right? Metrics are questions that data can answer. So let's start with a few very typical metrics. Conversion. So this is essentially fundamental when thinking about identifying success by how many users, let's say, completed a task. For example, signing up for an account. So at PayPal, for example, a user comes into paypal.com and goes through a funnel where they create an account and they have this verification code that's sent to them, and they click on it and then they activate the account. So if you have to map how many people started the task and how many dropped off at each stage, you can identify where users are getting stuck, right? And what is really coming in the path of them to convert into becoming customers of PayPal. So the next thing is user engagement. So this helps define which features are driving engagement. So a lot of applications like Facebook, LinkedIn, PayPal sort of track users by number of times a user has logged into the app every day. Sometimes it's every day, it's daily active users, sometimes it's monthly active users, weekly active users, and so on, right? They set metrics like X times a day is super active, or times is some other times it's sort of more lightweight. And some other ways to think about how your users are logging in, how long they stay on the app, how are they engaging with the content? Like, is it useful? Is it relevant? How do you measure some of this stuff, right? Like, are they spending time reading the content, or are they just scrolling? Are they clicking on call to action buttons? Like, you may have likes and comments and whatnot. So how are users engaging with your content, right? This is some sort of metrics that can help you understand what's driving engagement. So next big one is retention. So building great products is great, right? But to keep your users coming back is really key. So we, think about tracking subscriptions, or, how many of your customers are renewing their, let's say, annual contracts. So you really want to identify root cause for churn, analyze through different instrumentations, let's say in your logs and whatnot. What was the last action a customer took, or set of actions a customer took before they churned out of the system? Right? This will help you identify what action and what error was resulted, or what expectations were unmet, which resulted in this customer leaving you. So data can tell you what happened, if there was an error such as logging or logging in, or like paying with a new credit card that they just added, or adding a new shipping address. So if there's errors and things that you can identify from your logs, this can help you understand what is making them churn out, because ultimately you want to have customers who are coming back to your platform. User behavior. So this is really slicing and dicing it to the next level of detail, right? So segmenting your users based on personas and attributes, such as age, demographics, preferences, personality types. Sometimes we have people who are very investigative. Some folks like analytics. Some people are motivated by multiple options on the screen, while some others like things to be very simple and intuitive, right? Some users have higher spending power. Some users like to use mobile and whatnot, right? So you really want to slice and dice your user set into segments and then go to the next level of detail of analyzing their behavior. Another way you can also use this is see what channels are working best to engage your users. For example, with PayPal, let's say you've introduced a new capability like adding a credit card through a phone and a web application. You can see how many people are using which mechanism of, or firstly which device, and even seeing which channel of marketing is actually getting people to drawn to your platform. And the last thing, as we all know, most crucial is ROI, right? How are your investments bringing you to profitability? Are you really seeing that 5x, 8x return on your investment? And how quickly will you get there? So I'm going to share a 5-step framework. Here's the first slide of that to help you really learn about how you want to use data to help understand why your products are successful. And also understand what areas your products are not meeting your customers' needs. Focus on these areas, iterate, and repeat the process, right? Repeat this build, measure, learn process to improve. Because ultimately, building products in the agile methods we have, it's a continuous iteration model. So let's get into details, right? This is 5 techniques I'm going to walk you through. So the first one is funnel analysis. So this is great when you have a workflow, like a sign up for an account or download this application with, there's a multi-step process that takes a user from sort of initiation to completion. Now you can analyze each stage and see how many people are completing the task and determine the sticky points. So what you're trying to see really is what percentage of users are completing the steps and isolate points where users are churning. For example, let's say PayPal is launching launching the application in a new country. Now we attract users through marketing channels. Observe how many sort of how many users are are attracted to the top of the funnel, right? The begin sign up stage. So go through the multiple, marketing channels and whatnot. Now, follow how many of this group now, continues onto email verification and then onto adding the bank or adding a credit card so they can actually transact, and then how many ultimately can be called as an engaged active user, right? Now, based on this, you can see that there's a bit of a drop off. So you can arrive at a few hypotheses, right? It could be it is possible that many people are dropping out as the new app that we're launching has limited capabilities. Maybe it doesn't have the ability to send money to friends or family, right? Maybe you have competitors in this market that are offering a lot more than we are. Maybe there's brand awareness issues. Just nobody knows about PayPal in this in this country we're launching. Or there could be other reasons, like maybe there is actual like bugs in the application, right? Let's assume that it is very slow. Let's say the sign up experience, the application is very slow. There can be so many different reasons that we hypothesize at this stage, and then we now use the next few stages to get to the next level of detail. So I can give you a simple example, right? This is not PayPal data. I want to show you how we can, if you want to just experiment around yourself, just use any website, like start a blog or something like that, and you can use your Google Analytics, like hook it up to Google Analytics, and you can actually just play around with it, right? So let's hypothesize we have, let's say, a lot of users who are coming into this website through various channels, and you can see from different countries and so on. However, let's assume that, you can see there's a lot of different types of content on this website, right? There's fashion, there's travel, there's home, there's different kinds of categories. First, it'll already tell you, there's close to a 50% drop off or a 43% drop off. So now you want to start thinking about, well, let me follow this path and see where are people mostly dropping off from. People come to the homepage, but then they drop off, a large portion of them. People come to some of the other pages like fashion and travel, but maybe there's more drop off from fashion versus travel. Now you can hypothesize over here, for example, saying maybe the page load time is heavily impacted due to the content that you are presenting, right? This is an example. The content being, maybe very image heavy or video heavy. That's an example where fashion may not result in a good experience, but travel, maybe you have a lot of text-based content like travel guides and things like that. And over here, you may have much better experience. Hypotheses. How do you verify this with data, right? Let's go to the next level. Here's an example where you hypothesize to say, take a look at the page load times, right? So it looks like really there's high drop off because your homepage landing page itself has a pretty high page load time. So you know that there's something that you need to go talk to developers about to look into performance. Another hypothesis you made was maybe travel content is text heavy versus fashion, and some of the others are image heavy. Let's see how that's impacting the page load experience. And you can see that relatively, travel has lower page load time, so it's a slightly better experience versus fashion, for example, takes 40 seconds, which is a terrible experience. Everybody's likely dropping off at that point. So now you get to slice and dice even your content and how you are creating this website and what that experience what parts of your experience are resulting in a drop off. So there's more around here that you can slice and dice with Google, with Google Analytics itself. So let's get to the next level, right? So now thinking about cohort analysis. This is a form of grouping subset of users bound by common characteristics or experiences, like the first time your users use your product. So cohort analysis lets you define, at least in Google Analytics, lets you define a cohort based on acquisition date. That is when your users or users that came to your platform for the first time during a time period, like a week. Now, as you roll out features and releases, this lets you compare behavior of different cohorts over time against the same set of KPIs or goals, such as conversion or retention, engagement, etc. And you can run, for example, marketing experiments to identify highest performing or lowest performing cohorts based on these KPIs that you're constantly measuring against each of them. I'll give you an example of how this would work. So most commonly used for tracking is for cohorts is typically retention or return users. So it's great to see, if you were to, let's say, run ads, you have run some ads through Facebook in January, Twitter in Feb, Instagram in March. You can actually now see how your users are reacting. Because these will become different cohorts and how many of them are coming to your platform. Or you release new sets of features to your platform in January, February, March, and see how your users who are coming to you in Jan, how many of them come back to you in Feb, which means January had interesting content. How many of your users, based on the feature you launched in Feb, how many of those users are coming back to you in March? Things like that. So here's like a really quick view, right? Let's get to the next level of detail, which is segmentation. I'm going to talk about these together just because I think they kind of go hand in hand, but segmentation is sort of further slicing and dicing a larger cohort based on many different dimensions like the device use, demographics, age group, etc. So in analytics, cohorts are typically, time or funnel bound, and segments are sliced and diced based on user behavior, like engaged users or characteristics and so on. In a quick nutshell, right? Before I move on, in a quick nutshell, let's talk about if you continue down that hypothesis, right, where you had this website and users are coming in and likely dropping out, assumption due to page load time. Now you can further slice and dice this to say, think about if it's page load experience, which is a problem. I would imagine mobile users have a much worse experience than desktop users. And now you can slice and dice that specific data, right? Looks like your desktop experience is slightly better and your mobile is significantly worse. You can further slice and dice this by, demographic, age, male, female, and whatnot. You can slice and dice this by country. There's a lot that you can play around with to really get to the level of detail that you want to. So these are some interesting things that I'll talk about. So now you get this, you got some data around you and so on. How do you get to the next level of detail down to the code, right? So this goes to see some inherent browser, so event-based tracking, right? Goes to see some inherent browser or app-based analytics, like if a message was seen or how many times did this error show up. You need thorough instrumentation built into the product, kind of almost getting to the head of the customer here, right? So you're going to think about tracking AJAX calls, image loads, down to every action that can be very time consuming, right? So engineers need to start thinking about building this instrumentation in the design from the get-go. So let's say an example, right? You're the product manager for, let's say, even you have like address lookup. So you're typing you start typing an address and it autofills, let's say for the sign-up form. Now, a KPI for some feature like this would, let's say you want to, what kind of KPIs would you come up with? Let's reduce the number of wrong addresses, or how many times a user had to click add this address, or how many characters did he have to type, and so on. So now, one way to check is how many characters did they type. Another way to check is how many times did they type the whole address, right? Which means we were not able to recommend the right address. Or how many times did they write the whole address, but it was, there was some error messages in there saying, users are not, let's say, selecting any of the recommendations. So in a nutshell, like over time, as you iterate through this, seeing users type lesser and lesser characters will indicate to you that you're getting to higher degree of success and higher degree of quality with your product. So here's a very simple example, like, down to this, as simple as one little text box where people are typing in their, autofilling addresses can even be measured and improved significantly in quality by, just looking at the data and looking to that level of, how much time are they spending, how many seconds are they spending, how many characters are they spending, and so on. I just want to mention this because this can be applied in so many different ways. I did not want to, downplay how important it is for you to build instrumentation from the day one of your product. And before I go on, how do I get to the previous screen? Okay. So last thing is this is click-through. This is really an age-old mechanism. It's used at marketing, clickbait, whatnot. This is a very effective way to track product gaps. So with click-through analysis, you can go so much deeper than any of the things that you've done so far, right? Like, what optimizations can you make on a product? So let's take an example where, you are the product manager for a phone confirmation experience. That is, you have signed up for a new account and they tell you, I'm going to send you the verification code and you need to essentially type in that code and all good. For something as simple as that, let's do some click-through analysis, right? So in this experience, you want to see once the user has created the account, they get a code and they need to type in this verification code. Now you can track the percent of users who click on get code and how many of them say not now. Now this can indicate to you that there's some friction here. They don't want to do this. How many people are clicking on not now? And if that's a high number, this is increasing friction for them. So you want to reconsider that design. Now let's say how many of these users clicked on resend code, which means we are kind of failing. Our experience is failing them because either the code didn't make it or it made it too late, whatever it is, right? So this is again a cause for friction. So you want to investigate what went wrong there. Now, things like these will help you kind of sign up, tie it back to that whole sign up experience when the funnel that you came about. Why are people not making it all the way through? Things like these, like applying all of these principles across the entire journey will help you ultimately identify where are people dropping off and how you can fix them. So lastly, I don't want to not mention this. A/B testing is the goal. Like, experiment before you launch. Really, there's so many great ideas out there, and ideas come from all parts of the organization: product, engineering, designers, so on. So it is important that you filter out the great ideas from the not so great ideas and let your users decide that. So play around with it, set up these experiments, and actually have your users and use your system and use data like this to tell you what is meeting your customers where they need you to. And lastly, I'm going to conclude by saying, how can you get started? Start thinking about who's your target customer. Don't start building. Think about who's your customer. What are their problems? And what problems can you solve for them? And what kind of data do you need to measure success of your products? With that, I will say thank you. And I hope this presentation was helpful. Thanks a lot.